You see, like, fear is like standing on the edge of a cliff, looking down at this huge body of water and thinking it's 100-foot deep ocean. But what happens when you step off that cliff, you realize the water's only an inch deep. Your socks maybe get a little moist, and all of a sudden you start marching through the water, recognizing, wow, it really wasn't that bad. And so by putting myself in a position to be uncomfortable, I'm reminded that when I get scared in that transaction, when I get scared to buy that investment property, when I get scared to fire that employee, that fear is literally an inch deep and a mile wide. You just have to take one step and then keep moving through it.
Hey guys, Wally Olivieri. All right, so what is 24/7 mindset? Most times when you hear 24/7, you're thinking what? 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, just grinding, hustling. You know, I learned over time, a 24-year career in mortgage and multiple other businesses that I own is, unfortunately, you'll get burnt out. I became an absent father, I became an absent husband, and I became a poor business leader because I was trying to work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, trying to build a business, maintain a business. When I learned how to work smarter, not just harder, by doing things the best way it could be done, instead of just simply doing my best, I learned how to work only 24 hours a week, 7 months a year, while I got paid from the business residually 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can do the same. Welcome to the show. So welcome to 24/7 Mindset Show. Today's probably going to be very little about mortgage, but it's probably going to be a lot about life. And I think you'll probably get out of a lot out of this today, but I'm super excited because I have a previous mentee that has turned into a mentor to me, and Matt King. So Matthew, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Wally. It's an honor and a privilege to be here with you and your community. It's very humbling to be on this side of the conversations when most times I was listening to you for advice. So I hope to bring you and your community a ton of value today.
Oh, I'm sure everybody will be super excited about it. So tell us a little bit. Obviously, we know, go back a little bit. So you were a wrestler, used to be a caddy, grew up in Wisconsin. But then you had some spunk to you that you moved all the way across the United States. Like, walk us through that journey.
Yeah, so I was born and raised in a small town in Wisconsin. Always have been super competitive, always have been an athlete, but also, Wally, have always been a servant-based leader. And we can dive into it further, but I truly believe that service is the Trojan horse to knowledge. So if you want to learn anything, you have to serve people. And I've been doing that since I was in high school. I used to work in a locker room at a country club as the shoe boy. Basically, we cleaned a bunch of shoes while the guys were out golfing. But through that was in a room where I was hearing all the conversations about what people thought was going on in the markets, what people thought was happening inside of their businesses, how they were handling tough conversations, how they were doing deals. And through the whole time, I thought, man, how lucky am I to be in these conversations and to be able to listen to this and hear this. And I just constantly was trying to absorb information. As I was going through college, I decided at one point to drop out. I was running my own silk screening and vinyl sign shop. And it came down to, do I print t-shirts and make $3,000, or do I go take this test and pay $3,000? And for me at 20 years old, it was a very easy decision. $3,000 in my bank account was much better. It was, a $6,000 swing to me. And I thought that would be a much better decision. My parents were not happy. My grandmother was mortified. But at the end of the day, I had a vision for my life, and I knew that I could either find the way or make the way to achieving what I set out to achieve, regardless of having that education or not. And at age 23, I was fortunate to meet this incredible girl, or I'd met her younger, but we started dating. And she said, hey, I'm going to move across the country and start teaching in the inner city schools of Washington, D.C. And I said, great, I'm coming with you. Without Melissa's courage to leave Wisconsin and go across the country to Washington, D.C., without that incredible support system, without that amazing person that I was living shoulder to shoulder and face to face with, candidly, Wally, I don't think I would have ever had the courage to move across the country. And so we moved to Washington, D.C., and then one thing led to another, got down to Austin, Texas, just under 10 years ago now, and have been here ever since.
You trusted your gut and you followed your heart. Those are two amazing qualities that I've seen in you over this last decade. But what do you tell yourself, that voice that you had previously? I'm sure you probably still have it from time to time, that you're not going to be successful. This isn't going to work out. Stay in the safe zone.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I have it all the time still to this day, Wally. I mean, I'm 34 and you, with all the success you've achieved, I'm sure you still have that little voice creeping in your head. What I've found on this journey, Wally, is that voice never leaves us. We just get really, really good at turning the volume down. And we don't always get good at turning the volume down. Sometimes that voice creeps up. I'll never forget, I was getting ready to lead my first GoBundance event, and I was going to lead the Champions event, which is a room of guys worth $5 million and more. There I am standing mic'd up on the side of the stage. Thank God my armpits don't sweat, just my hands. So my hands were all sweaty. And I was thinking to myself, who am I to be on this stage leading these men? And as I sat there and pondered it, I was reminded of this incredible advice I got from David Osborne, who is a dear, dear, dear mentor of mine, an amazing human. I still work in his world today. And he said, when I was building my offices in Dallas, I used to drive up this hill, and at the right time in the morning, the sunrise would be coming up over this incredible Dallas skyline. And I was always intimidated by that skyline until one day I started asking myself, why not me? Someone's going to conquer this city from a real estate perspective. Why not me? And in that moment, standing on the side of the stage, Wally, it hit me. Why not me? Someone's got to be on that stage leading those men. Why not me? Someone's going to be changing the trajectory of an organization. Why not me? Someone's going to be an incredible husband and an incredible father. Why not me? And so whenever that voice pops up into my head, I try to ask it questions, because oftentimes when you ask your mind questions, it goes to work for you. And so when you start to feel that doubt, you start to get nervous about making that call to the listing agent who wants to know if your client's going to close on time or not. Ask yourself the question, why not me? Someone's going to close this transaction. Why not me? And so that simple statement, that simple phrase, I probably use still to this day 5 times a week, because I'm still in the heat of battle. I'm still not nearly where I want to be. I'm still having very uncomfortable conversations. Parenting's hard as heck. Being a husband's not easy. Getting healthy isn't easy. So I'm still using that same statement in my life of why not me to silence that critic inside of me that says, this is scary, this is uncertain, and you can't do this.
Well, as you grew in that area, so you had that mindset now, and then you were in DC. So from DC, like, what happened after that?
Yeah, so from Washington, D.C., I got asked to volunteer at these GoBundance events, and I was clueless when it comes to what is a mastermind group. I mean, here we are on the 24/7 mindset call, which is a community, but it's also a mastermind, right? When brilliant people come together and collaborate and talk about how 1 + 1 can equal 5. And I, at 23 years old, had no idea what a mastermind was, but I was working for Pat Hyben at the time. And he said, hey, you're going to go volunteer at this thing called GoBundance. And I showed up in Orlando and served. I slept on a couch, worked 18-hour days. At the end of the day, made sure everybody had water in their cups, made sure the dinner plates were cleared, made sure the speakers were prepared. And I just was of service. And I'll never forget the last day, David Osborne and Rock Thomas were going to play golf. And they knew I was a huge golfer. And they said, hey, man, we've got one extra spot. Do you want to come with us? And I'll never forget saying to them, I would be honored, but I'd rather caddy than play golf. And they both started laughing. They're like, you idiot, why do you want to caddy? We're about to play this incredible golf course in Orlando. We're going to pay for you. And your dumbass wants to stand on the back of a cart and caddy. But I knew that through service, I was going to learn so much. And if I got lost in my own game that day, that I would have never, I'm very competitive. So I never would have gotten the amount of information I would have gotten. But more importantly, I would have shown up as a different human to those people that I thought I could learn from. And so I stood on the back of the cart and I caddied for them. And there I am, 23 years old, holding on, listening to these two guys talk about their vision of getting to $100 million in net worth and how they're building companies, how they're hiring people, how they're firing people, how they're growing, how they're changing their health. And I was given this incredible 4-hour coaching session by these two amazing humans. And all I had to do in exchange for it was clean their ball and rake the bunker. What a gift. How lucky was I? And so it wasn't long after that I met David again at another event. And he called and said, look, man, I think you're talented. My world's a mushroom cloud getting ready to explode. why don't you come down and work for me in Austin, Texas? And if it doesn't work out, move back to wherever the hell you came from. And if it does work out, I've got plenty of opportunity for you. And so I was 24 years old, moved to Austin, Texas with Melissa. My parents were like, do you even know who this guy is? Is he a serial killer? Like, what's going on? And I'll never forget meeting you, Wally, and building a relationship and a friendship with you. But more importantly, being able to tap into you as a mentor, as somebody that was, giving me feedback, giving me advice, as somebody who opened their doors to me to come spend the night with your family and learn from you and whiteboard out things. When there was tough days, you were there to listen. When there was great days, you were there to celebrate. And at the end of the day, I've always prided myself on just surrounding myself with great people, putting my ego aside and taking the advice they give me, sitting with it in my intuition, and then taking action on it.
But also, I think you left out this, how marvelously curious you are. And I think it's super great that, any of our friendship talks or coaching sessions or whatever you want to call them, our 7 a.m. calls that we used to do, I think what I love so much of, like, you would never allow me to be one level deep. You keep asking questions to get 2 to 3 to 4 levels deep. And, you realize you weren't really asking me those questions to test me. You were asking me those questions to understand how I thought. And if you can break down how somebody else thinks, you can reduplicate the same steps, if not better or different steps, to be able to bring their success into your world.
Yeah, I felt as though my whole life I've had a little bit of a disadvantage because I didn't have this college degree. But I just changed the definition on that. Rather than saying I had a disadvantage, I said I have an unfair advantage to remain more curious than anybody else possible. And through that curiosity, I was able to absorb tons of information and knowledge that came from countless years of experiences, hardships, successes, tough times, great times, and then apply those and layer those into the things I'm working on in my day-to-day life. And that curiosity still remains. I mean, before the call, we were talking about this ranch property I'm buying, and people think I'm crazy. I know nothing about cattle. I don't even own cowboy boots, and I live in Texas. But I'm excited by the opportunity to show my family what it's like to work hard on a ranch, raise cattle, and more importantly, have a place to go and escape. And so I've probably spent 20 hours in the last 3 weeks learning about how to breed longhorns. I have no idea what I'm doing, but there I am listening to podcasts, talking to ranchers, going to the feed mill and asking questions, because at the end of the day, I understand that knowledge is power. And if I can learn from all of these people and then apply that knowledge, I can then make my dreams a reality through actual application of that knowledge.
100%. You and I have a lot more in common than most people think, but we will always have the Achilles bond.
Yeah.
And our story is a little bit different. You ruptured your Achilles is more an adventurous way. But what surprises me the most is how I ruptured mine. Obviously, it was silly pickleball, and I have zero interest of being around a pickle court again. While on the other side of the coin, a bull riding is what got your Achilles, and then you're going to go buy a ranch and breed cow. Yeah,
it's a great point, Wally. And here's what I'll tell you: I'm going to ride another bull, and the reason I'm going to do that is because I will not let my fears control my life. And so I hear you. I hear how much you can be afraid of pickleball because of your Achilles popping. And trust me, with hearing how many horror stories there are in pickleball and the Achilles, I'm not eager to get on a court either. However, I'm never going to let my fear control my life. You see, like, fear is like standing on the edge of a cliff, looking down at this huge body of water and thinking it's 100-foot deep ocean. But what happens when you step off that cliff, you realize the water's only an inch deep. Your socks maybe get a little moist, and all of a sudden you start marching through the water, recognizing, wow, it really wasn't that bad. And so by getting back on a bull again, by putting myself in a position to be uncomfortable, I'm reminded that when I get scared in that transaction, when I get scared to buy that investment property, when I get scared to fire that employee, that fear is literally an inch deep and a mile wide. You just have to take one step and then keep moving through it. And so at the end of the day, I'm going to get back on a bull, because why not?
Yeah, I think that's awesome, and I love that. But you ruptured your Achilles in something you were enjoying and something you were excited about. I was guilt tripped into playing pickleball. I had zero interest in playing pickleball, and I have no interest in going back it. But it was cool. I got to play basketball for the first time this weekend with
That's awesome.
my two sons, and definitely out of shape compared to a 16-year-old and an 18-year-old. But
I bet.
I starting to jump and starting to get more mobile, which is definitely a lot more fun.
It's amazing though, like rupturing your Achilles, and I know you and I have both done the same one twice. It's amazing how much that sound and that feeling haunts you every single day, whether it's that weird step on the stairs or playing basketball with your kids. I'm hopeful that someday that little fear will escape us. But for now, I'm like, ooh, was that it? Oh, let me feel. No, I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah, I think that when you feel that pop and you hear that pop, I don't know how yours was, but the first time it happened to me, I was like, that I have no idea what that was, but like the pain was so crazy. But the second time it popped, I knew exactly what it was.
Yeah. For me, the first time I had no idea what it was because I had just gotten thrown off this 2,000-pound animal and I thought I was going to die because it was coming after me. And so I got up and tried to run. It was like, wow, my ankle really hurts. I wonder what that is. And then almost got talked into getting on another bull, but I'm like, y'all, something's not right with my ankle. I better not. And I remember getting home that night and calling a doctor friend. I'm like, hey, I screwed up my ankle and I'm trying to figure out if it's my Achilles. He's like, okay, lay on the bed, face down, squeeze your calf. Does your foot move? I'm like, no. He's like, yeah, you popped your Achilles. I'm like, are you sure? Are you sure I did? And then the second time, yeah, you know that feeling. It's scary.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so let's fast forward a little bit. Let's talk about wealth for a second. So you moved to Austin. You got with a great mentor to both of us, David. And like, when did you start really understanding the game of wealth, and what was like a mindset shift that you started to have?
Yeah, so for me, I really started to understand the game of wealth probably about 36 months into the opportunity with him. Growing up, through the research I had done, through the conversations I had, I thought wealth was buying one asset a year over year, and then being able to retire at 45 rather than 55 and have those assets pay you for a lifetime. And while that is an incredible journey and that is financial freedom, it's not true wealth. Like true wealth is actually built through operating businesses, through taking risks, through employing incredibly talented people, and then working together with them on the vision you have for not only your life, but the community you're in, or even the world if you're brave enough. And so at 36 months into the opportunity, it really hit me that the way to build true wealth is to take massive action towards the dreams and goals that I have in my life, march towards that vision I have, but ultimately figure out a path to earning or buying or starting businesses. And you do that through a couple different ways. But at the end of the day, I was growing up working for either equity or knowledge. And I would say at about 36 months in, Wally, and I still don't know everything, but I felt as though I had enough knowledge to flip that switch to start working for equity. And so rather than talking about that salary raise or that pay increase or I was starting to talk about with the mentorship and guidance from you, hey, what would an earning in this opportunity be? Hey, rather than paying me to run these deals, could I have a profits interest when you sell them? Hey, if we acquire this asset at this price, would you be willing to give me X percentage? And those conversations, those bricks that I laid starting at 28 years old, feel like, a 7-year overnight success. Like it feels as though I woke up one day and looked out in my garden and there was all these incredible flowers, but there was a lot of years of frustration. There was a lot of days of misery. There was a lot of days of anger. But looking back, I would coach that younger version of myself to remain patient, keep laying those bricks, keep putting in the hard work, and trust day by day, you're going to build an incredible structure that's going to protect and serve your family for a lifetime.
Yeah, I remember when you started getting out of your own way. And candidly, I wouldn't say it was a monster long time ago. I'd probably say three years ish ago. But before that, I'd say maybe before that, I don't know, year 5 or year 6 together, you had this mindset no one could do it as good as you.
Yeah.
And if it needed to get done and it needed to get done right, Matt King is the only one that could do it. And before you knew it, there was only so many hours in the day.
Yeah.
So what was the mindset shift? What was finally the breaking point? What lenses did you start looking through to stop thinking you had to be everything to everyone else?
I would say, Wally, that actual experience in my life was probably 6 to 9 months ago. And it was when I remember looking at my to-do list, which was a legal sized piece of paper. I remember looking at my two children, kind of looking at me like, who the hell are you? We haven't seen you in a minute. And then I remember looking at my wife and going, well, I haven't really seen you in a minute either. And it kind of hit me. It was almost like a breakdown. It was like, wow, I have two choices here. One is I can continue doing the things that I'm doing now, but I'm going to lose my family. Or the other was maintain my family and change the way I was doing things. And, David, so many people in my life had been harping this message on to me for the past probably 5 years, 4 years. But it wasn't until I actually felt it. I actually sort of hit rock bottom and felt myself almost have that breakdown that I recognized, wow, I don't have to be the one to do this. And actually somebody else can manage my calendar just as good as I can. And further, if they do a better job, great. And if they do a worse job, who cares? I don't manage my calendar anymore. And so I let go of this control. I almost had to let a part of myself die, if you will. And I'm still honestly working on it. It's not perfect. There's still some things where I'm a control freak and I got to put my little touch on it. But at the end of the day, I recognize that if I would become a better leader, and I'm still trying to become a better leader, that ultimately incredible people will come to work with me on our vision for what's possible. And together we can do far more than I could ever do by myself.
100%. I will tell you though, you've got a lot of strengths and there's a lot of things you're great at, but I have to put out there that I think the best talent you have is how well you plan out golf trips, especially overseas.
Yeah, it was really, really awesome to see how well that was coordinated and the amount of hotels we juggled through and the amount of golf courses we were able to sneak on. I thought it went really well when we added the extra round and decided to leave the girls on their hiking trip. And I thought it was a great trip.
I think that, but also I was talking about even the trips that you planned out for David and I and Tracy and and all those others. And it was almost I want to help, but there was zero chance I was going to get in your way because you do that so much better than everyone else.
Well, the beautiful thing about life, Wally, is I look at no's as Olympic gold medal opportunities for myself. So those trips were a bunch of no's and I got to figure out how many gold medals in my own mind I could win. So I would call this course and be like, hey, I need a tee time at 7:30. They're like, we've been booked for 3 years. I'm like, no, you don't understand who's coming to play. I need a tee time at 7:30. And then I wouldn't get the answer I wanted. So I'd call back and then I'd call the head pro and then I would start building a relationship and I'd find out his mom was from Wisconsin. And the next thing you know, we had a tee time for y'all at 7:30. And for me, it was just this giant game of can I take a no and flip it to a yes? It was almost like a Rubik's Cube for me. And I'm like, how can I manipulate this? And honestly, Wally, still to this day, I play that exact same game. We're in the process of buying this farm, my family and I. And on Saturday, we went out to do the septic inspection. And so I went out early. I was walking the property or whatever. And I was waiting for the septic inspector to come. And I was just sitting there enjoying the beautiful weather. And all of a sudden a car pulls up. Well, it turns out to be the seller. And any real estate agent ever never wants the buyer and the seller to talk together. That's rule number one, do not let them talk. Well, there I was sitting and I almost started to salivate because I was like, oh, here we go. I got this property for sure now. I can ask for whatever I want almost. And I'm holding this lady's hand as she's stepping over a rock wall because she's 66. I'm carrying a 50-pound bag of feed to feed her cattle. I'm feeding her cattle so she can hold her coffee. I'm asking her about the memories she made with her family, and ultimately got all the way to finding out that her 88-year-old husband was born and raised in Wisconsin and was a giant Packers fan. And so all of a sudden, through this relationship and through this big game I was playing, I was able to find commonality. And through the commonality, I was able to build a relationship. And then through the relationship, I was able to be the person that they wanted to sell the house to. And she went so far as saying, this transaction couldn't be more perfect. And some people will sit there and go, wow, that guy's just a manipulator. And yes, you could look at it from that perspective. But at the end of the day, I know that I have the capabilities to find the way or make the way to achieve whatever I want in life. And I just use the tools I have and God afforded me with and figure out the way to do it.
Well, I think it goes back to what I shared a few minutes ago about a special gift you have, a curiosity. So you're curious enough, then you've got the grit, which is this unlocks so many doors for you.
Yeah. It's been a fun journey, man. And it's just getting started, I think.
So let's talk a little bit about some of the mentees you've had. So who, you don't need to say names, but who are some mentees that you've poured into to give back, and what's have you kind of changed their life?
Yeah, so there's still a group of people that I pour into. Honestly, Wally, my biggest regret on my deathbed, if I don't change something today, will be my no's and my yeses. I say no to the right people and I say yes to the wrong people. And what I mean by that is I'll tell my kids no before I'll tell this young guy who wants to learn a little bit no. And I just have a soft spot in my heart and in my being for the person that wants to learn and the person that's willing to do things to actually achieve the life they want, because I see myself in those people. And so I have a handful of mentees that still to this day I'm talking to and working with. I've had friends that have come and gone. I've worked with people that you've had, some great, some, maybe I could have done a better job. And at the end of the day, I try to like serve every single person I meet, whether it's the lady who started my children's school or it's the bus driver who drove our bus up to a golf trip. I just try to be a mentor to everybody, because I look at it from the point of view of they have something to teach me too, regardless of where they're at in their journey. And so while you may say like, oh, let's talk about the mentees you have and the success, I'd rather look at them as mentors for me, because I learned something from each and every one of them every time I talk to them.
That's a great point. That's a great point. So as we're kind of getting down our closing minutes, I want to talk about what's next for Matthew. So fast forward for me like 3 years from now, 5 years from now, where do you see? I mean, unfortunately, even if we fast forward 5 years from now, you're still not even 40.
I know. So, that's a good point. That's a good point.
I'd be 50 something if we fast forward 5 years.
Jeez, you'd probably be a grandpa, man.
I know. Oh, probably. Unfortunately, probably. Hopefully, a little bit further than sooner, but it's gonna come.
It's gonna come. Yeah. So look, at the end of the day, I just want to get 1% better every single day, Wally. And my number one mission right now is to stop living small, and more importantly, give others that I come in contact with that same permission. So I feel as though the world, society, the places we live now put this pressure on us to not live big lives. They want us to stay small. They want us to get in credit card debt. They don't want us to take that chance as an entrepreneur. They don't want us to buy that property. They don't want us to ask for that mentor to go to coffee with us. And so 5 years from now, Wally, I hope to be in a position where I'm just living bigger than I am today, saying yes to more of the right things and no to more of the wrong things. I will still be an incredible father, or the best I can be. At that point, it will be 3. Let's hope it's only 3 kids. I hope to continue to get better as a husband and continue to be a better leader for my family. I hope to have more incredible golf trips with people like yourself and David Osborne. And I hope to build way more playgrounds in my life. And for me, building playgrounds is not physically a playground. Like, those are great too. But playgrounds are memories, and they're memories that will last you for a lifetime. So I was recently doing some research for a speech, and I learned that the average cost of a funeral in the United States of America was $9,000. And I looked at my life and I said, where have I spent $9,000? And I was pondering this, that most people save their entire life just to spend that $9,000 pouring themselves into the ground 6 feet below the earth. And I thought, what's the point of doing that? Why not take that $9,000 and start living my life? And I'll never forget when I took my family to Disney last year. I took my parents, my in-laws, my kids, my wife, her cousin, and myself, and we did the private VIP tour for Disney. The most overpriced, ridiculously crazy price thing you're ever going to do in your entire life, $800 an hour. But the memory, the playground that I built through that experience is all I want to continue to do in my life, because my dad, sitting in the room that night, talked about how at 5'5", probably, maybe 5'6" on a good day, he was strutting past the line of people waiting to get on the Ratatouille line for 3 hours and walking like an NFL linebacker that just won the Super Bowl right to the front of the line and getting on the ride. And he was talking about how incredible of an experience that was. There's no amount of money, Wally, that would replace that memory. There's no amount of like quality in a casket that will replace that memory. And so for me, the next 5 years, the next 10 years, the next 50 years of my life are all about stop living small and start building playgrounds.
All right. Most important question. of the whole entire show.
Ready.
And we can end on this. You ready?
Yeah.
When's our next golf trip?
October 30th, because my third child will be 6 weeks at that time, and I think it's a safe point to ask to go on a golf trip.
All right, perfect. I think we I remember a text me, you, David, is maybe about a month ago. I still left it on. I've got it unread on my phone, saving it. Talking about you coming after your shoulder surgery, I think it was.
Yeah.
And it was somewhere in Canada or something like that. That wasn't Canada. It was a golf course started with a C.
Yeah, it was in Florida. It was
Florida.
not
Cabot,
Camden, but
Cabot or something like that.
Yeah, Cabot Citrus or something like that.
Yeah,
it was a new course. Yeah. I just got cleared actually yesterday, Wally, to start working through my bag. I can't hit the driver until around May 1st. But he said I can start. At least what I heard him say is you can start working from your bag. If I have to be honest with you, Wally, because I feel a little guilty right now in this moment. I asked him when I can start golfing, and he said, well, I don't want you driving the golf ball for another 3 weeks. And so I was like, well, great. That means pitching wedge, 9-iron, 8-iron, 7-iron, 6-iron. And so I didn't ask any more questions. I got the answer I wanted. And so I'm going to start working through my bag and hitting balls.
Just remember what you and I experienced and the frustration we felt when we both ruptured our Achilles the second time.
Here's the thing, though, man. I wouldn't change it for the world, because that's just in our DNA, and that's what makes us successful in life. Is we want to push to see if we can just do it a little bit better, a little bit faster.
That makes one of us. I think I would have changed it and rather not ruptured a second time.
Maybe that's what happens when you're older. I'm like, screw it, man. I'm not going to change who I am. That's just part of the game. When you live like that, that's just what's going to happen. Sometimes you're going to pop your Achilles again.
Man, you've brought a ton of wisdom. You've brought a lot of guidance. I couldn't be more proud for you. And thanks, it's very special. Your friendship and your mentorship is you make me want to feel like being a better person. So thank you for being authentic. Thank you for being transparent. And thank you for loving me as a friend. Thank you for challenging me. And thank you for being brave enough to call me on my BS.
Yeah, man, I can't thank you enough, Wally. I don't know that I would be the man I am today without your mentorship and guidance along the journey. And I certainly know I wouldn't have the laughs like when you picked that amazing place in Colorado to stay. And I'm just super humbled and grateful to be here with you and your community, and really proud of what you've done with 24/7 Mindset, and whatever I can do to be of service to you and the community, I'm all in.
All right, brother. Well, I'll see you soon. Man, love you.
Appreciate
Talk
you.
to you, man. Thank you. Bye. So thank you so much for listening today. It means a lot you took time out of your day. I don't take that lightly. Understand very clearly that you're very busy. With that being said, if you want to continue your journey and learn more about 24/7 Mindset, if you're on Facebook, which I'm going to guess you are, then go to 24/7 Mindset on Facebook and join the private community. I do coaching tips on there on a daily basis, but from scripts on there to systems on there, models, and the ability to be able to grow and scale a business while you have a quality of life. Hope to see you there.